This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project. With your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. Hey there, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. On today's podcast, we are getting into specifically how this individual raised over $100,000, $170,000 from more than 2,000 backers for the most advanced stain and odor repellent polo. So with this project, this individual actually came from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And I think that's always important to have a variety of different campaigners on, because this guy raised not only, he raised 3 projects, 3 successful campaigns, but he also did this from a country where entrepreneurship is not as popular. He'll also tell you a little bit about some of the success that he has had thus far, which I think is quite inspiring. My goal with this show is to bring to you people who are just like you. They have a passion, they have a vision, they want to create a good product, they want to make a name for themselves, they also want to have financial success, but they also have those values of like wanting to actually do good in the world, wanting to improve the world for the better, and creating a product that creates a raving fan base. And so many of these people that have come on my show, I think that we are blessed. That's a good word, blessed, to actually be talking with them, because they're so candid. Like they just kind of open the playbook and they're like, okay, if you're interested in raising money on Kickstarter, this is how you do it. They just kind of share with you step by step what's working for them and how to get traffic and traction to your own project. We're so lucky to have individuals like this, and it would mean so much to me if you took a second to, leave a rating and review on iTunes if you did like today's podcast, or you liked any of the other ones that I put out. I try to work very hard to get you good quality guests, and also from very different categories. And even like today's category, I would never imagine myself years ago buying fashion items online, but that's something that I actually do now, or seeing fashion on Kickstarter be so successful. That's something that kind of is blowing me away, but it's also where I try to document these things that are taking off so that you can also use this to your own advantage, as well as the techniques that they're applying for their campaign. I've been doing that for a number of years now. My book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, documents almost all of that. So it goes into in-depth, step-by-step, the complete blueprint, the complete playbook, if you will, and what you got to do if you want to basically have a formula, if you will, for a successful crowdfunding campaign. I document that in the Kickstarter Launch Formula. There's an Audible version that you can pick up at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. You can pick up a copy there. It's a little bit more structured, I'd say, than this podcast. This podcast, naturally, we kind of like bounce around a little bit sometimes. Maybe we have like a tangent story, or, we get into something for a little bit that's not always 100% applicable to you, your specific situation. With that book, it's really, I worked hard to not only read it with passion and pizzazz and read that well, but also I wanted it to be structured for you. So I literally go through things like, how do you actually market one of these campaigns? What are the costs that go into a crowdfunding project? Talking about taxes and reward fulfillment and all these things that aren't covered, I think, as completely other places. Talking about the video, etc. So that's a really great place to start as a Kickstarter Launch Formula. Another good place is doing a one-on-one coaching call with me. And so that if you're interested in that, I can tell you at the end of the episode, actually, how to get in contact with me. But another great link, if you're interested in getting on my newsletter, is crowdcrux.com/subscribe. That will take you to my weekly crowdfunding newsletter, where I send out advice and tips on crowdfunding, and it's 100% free. So that newsletter is crowdcrux.com/subscribe, and that will take you to the form where you just enter your name and email, and you can hop on my newsletter. You can start getting some free, great education delivered straight to your inbox. Okay, guys, I'm excited to dive into today's podcast episode, and it is coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Excited today to introduce you to an entrepreneur who has raised over $100,000 with his most recent Kickstarter campaign, has done 2 other successful projects for LABFRESH, and this most current campaign for the most advanced stain and odor repellent polo. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it. Casper, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Salvador.
So I'd like to get started. Maybe you could just tell listeners a little bit about your brand. I know that you guys started on Kickstarter, it seems. You could talk a little bit about when you first got interested in crowdfunding.
Yeah, sure. So this is, as you mentioned, our 3rd campaign. And I think in some ways we've been using Kickstarter for exactly what it's intended to be used for. So together with my fiance 2 years ago, we found a really nice technology made by some French scientists, and we thought it was stupid that it wasn't more widely used. So we set up our Kickstarter. Our friends shot the video in the apartment, and we ended up raising 200,000. And based on that, we decided to try to turn it into a real company. So fast forward to today, 2 years later, we are 13 people in the team, and we launched our 3rd project, and it actually turned into a real company. And the scientists that we work with are so happy that we took their innovations out of the lab and into closets and now all over the world.
That's incredible, man. What were you doing before you launched your first project?
So I had a startup that was a personal shopping service for men. So similar to what in the US is called a trunk club. We were doing that in the Netherlands and Denmark. And we had 3 million euros in funding. And in 2016, we sold it to our German competitors. And I was sitting in Berlin, not being very busy. So I was just playing around with new technologies and ordering a lot of Kickstarter products and trying to see what I like the most.
Is crowdfunding and Kickstarter, is it as big over there as it is here? Like, is that something that a lot of people are doing and supporting and they know about? Or is it kind of like, you are more in the know-how when it comes to that?
It's not very big. No, it's because we have so many different currencies and languages. So there are some local crowdfunding sites, of course, but it's just you cannot raise very big amounts. But me and my fiance, we are quite big fans of Kickstarter and likes to buy stuff there. So for us, it was like something we really wanted to do. Just like Shark Tank is a big thing in the US. It's not so big in Europe, but we really wanted to be on the Shark Tank of Denmark. So we signed up there, even though other experienced entrepreneurs would say that that's not the best place to put yourself.
So you're kind of like an anomaly, man. Like you are an entrepreneur. You had your other company, which raised $3 million. That's incredible. You sold it. That's awesome, dude. Like, have you always been an entrepreneur, or when did you start like working on stuff?
No, I have a master's degree from Copenhagen and China. And after I graduated, I actually worked for a couple of years in a shipping company. It's called Maersk. It's the biggest shipping company in the world. And I was wearing a suit and tie every day. And I was working in Nigeria, Oman, India, China, all over the world.
Wow.
Being in ports in my suit. So very different from what I'm doing now.
What made you decide to go from that to then trying something like a little bit more risky, a little bit more kind of, I guess, not the norm? What made you decide to make that choice?
I kind of already knew when I joined the big company, I just needed to save up some money and become smarter, because I also launched a company when I was 19 and I spent so much time on it and it didn't make a lot of money. So I knew I had to learn from some more experienced people before I would try again.
hmm Yeah, I think getting smarter is a goal that I also have in my own life, which is part of the reason why I love doing these podcasts. Having other entrepreneurs that I can learn from. It's kind of like selfish, honestly. I think it's insane, man. Like the level of success you're having here is great. You had your third successful project in 2 years. Like in the span of 2 years, you go from not having a company to then having a bunch of employees there that are helping you out. When it comes to this new technology, like what's the secret here? Like what does this technology do? Maybe you could paint a picture for the listeners a little bit.
Yeah, so I think in general, no matter if you want to make suitcases or shampoo or shirts, then you don't have to be a technical person to do that because it all comes from your suppliers. So to me, it's more about doing some actual research and going to a lot of fairs and ordering a lot of innovative products from that other people made, and then try to dig in deep and figure out, is this something that we can apply in a new and novel way? And that's what we did. So we found technologies that have been invented and certified, but they haven't really been implemented in any supply chains yet, which makes them very complicated and expensive to use. And since I was doing supply chain optimization in shipping before, I thought it sounded great to get on an airplane and fly to Switzerland and Portugal and France and try to get these new technologies into the old supply chains of the textile world.
Isn't that also like kind of played into your video a little bit? Like you guys did a bit of a different video, it seems like, with this project.
Yeah, we literally just brought a video guy with us when we went to some of our factories and mills. And the story is, it's 100% true. We literally just in the beginning got on an airplane, went down to look at the machines and tried to map on our computers everything they were doing and how we could add these new treatments without completely screwing up their production pattern.
Why do you think people liked that type of video?
Yeah, it's actually a surprise to us because the view-through rate is much higher than on our former campaigns. 40% are watching it to the end.
That's really good. That's really good, dude.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the average is when you speak to different creators, but for us, that's really good. And I think it's because we're trying to be fun, and because we have strong accents, then we chose to get a speaker with an American accent to do some of the talking. I think that helps too. And then, we're just being very real, showing us walking around in Portugal and trying to get our stuff done.
I think what kind of drew my attention a lot too is it's not like you're just selling something in a commercial way. You're kind of telling the story of how that product came to be. And that also kind of underscores your values and like the hard work that went into that.
Yeah, we were very inspired by this American brand called Nadam, who went to Mongolia with a car full of cash and came home with the softest cashmere sweaters. And our story in real life was actually similar to that. So, why not tell it?
The story is so much more interesting than if you're just kind of like trying to pitch someone, because like everyone wants to tune into a story. Like if you're around the dinner table and someone starts telling a story, you want to find out what happens next. Or like if you're watching a television, even if it's a crappy TV show, you're going to stay around until the next commercial break because you want to find out what happens next. I think storytelling is really underrated, honestly.
Yeah, and also we're starting this company because we want to, because we think it's fun. It's not just to make money. We are in a situation where that's not like the number one reason to start a company for us. So we think this is fun. We think it's fun for me and my fiance to show what we're actually doing. And when you follow us on Instagram and so on, we will show everything that's happening when we travel and when we're in the office. Just like we just took our whole team, 13 people, to Bali for a month, the Indonesian island. And then
that is awesome.
On the rice field, and we're working from there, and we're shooting and showing everyone how life in LABFRESH is.
So it's really important to document the creation of the product, and that can actually be an asset when it comes to creating your video. Another thing I noticed is you have a very strong community here. Like a lot of these people, it seems like, who supported your other projects also supported this new one that you launched. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference from doing our third project compared to the first one. When we send out the first email to our current customers or community, I think we got 45,000 raised within the first couple of hours.
And 45,000 from the email. Wow.
Yeah, and the email list is not that big. It's 30,000 people, and most of them are not comfortable ordering on Kickstarter because it's a different currency and they cannot use their normal payment solutions and stuff like that.
That's incredible. I think it also just shows the testament. Do you think that's because they kind of saw your other projects work out pretty well, and like that relationship is kind of what led to that?
I think a lot of it comes from them wanting to support my fiance Lord and I when we are doing these projects. We've been in a lot of the media in Denmark and the Netherlands, and that's where most of the backers are coming from. And yeah, we regularly give updates about what we're working on and what's happening in our private lives. So yeah, that kind of ultimate transparency, I think, is a key USP if you want to launch a digital brand in the coming years.
By keeping in touch too, you're making it so that you're always like on the top of those people's minds and they're aware of what you're doing. And like the fact that you're getting into like Esquire and Huffington Post and Vice, that's a big deal. Like that just to me puts you head and shoulders above some of the other people out there that maybe don't even have a proven product, you know?
Yeah, I think if you work for Esquire, you get, I think it's different if it's Esquire in the US compared to in the Netherlands, but because you can actually do a lot of paid mentions in the US, as far as I understand. But in general, these kind of journalists just receive so many emails from people who are like, "Hey, I made a backpack. Can you write about it?" And it's a lot more fun when you also pitch it as a person and tell a little bit about where you're coming from. And yeah, that's been our approach from the beginning.
When it comes to your approach, did you also send them like samples, or were they just willing to write about it based off of the story?
We send a few samples, but actually for all 3 Kickstarter projects, it's the samples have been messed up so that we only had very few to share with the media. Okay. So yeah, let's make do without.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think that media outreach component that kind of like confuses a lot of people, because how do you really write an effective story? It seems like it's kind of coming from your video, and also like it's not just about your product; it's about the values that you have. That's kind of what I'm taking away from here.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I think it's very hard to control yourself. I think everyone who launches a Kickstarter project will be approached by so many people who will write and offer PR services for flat fees or commissions or whatever. And they will get you a lot of mentions that doesn't provide a lot of traffic. On our first Kickstarter, we got a lot of attention, and it sort of went viral. Mm-hmm. And on the last one, it's a lot less because it's the 3rd time we're doing it. So the newspapers in our home countries are not as excited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When it comes to these different campaigns, like what does a launch sequence look like for you? So you have the media component, you have the announcement. Are you doing anything else? Like, are you trying to build up your social media profiles? Are you doing Facebook ads? Like, what are some of the other things you're doing?
No, consistently, when we try to run ads to prime a campaign, it's a waste of money. So instead, we make sure during the year that we collect a lot of email addresses via our website and social media. And then we write them 48 hours in advance, be ready when we launch, because we got some super early bird deals and we want you to have it, but we cannot reserve it for you on Kickstarter. So you just have to be fast. And then we always make deals with 1 or 2 ad agencies specialized in crowdfunding who will start launching ads, but not the first couple of days, only after we have used and activated our own network.
Mm-hmm. Have you also been doing anything like with Facebook Messengers, just out of curiosity? Because I've been seeing more products and more campaigns using sort of Facebook Messenger in conjunction with email.
Yeah, we've been trying to use it a bit together with automated bot replies and so on, and it's not, at least for us, it doesn't make an impact. Email is still by far the most valuable channel for us.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I really take away from your campaign, just looking at your website, your video and your photography is really on point, man. Like, I'm looking at this photo of you, I think with your girlfriend, maybe biking down the street, and it looks great. Like, it looks awesome. Just also the models you have wearing the material look really high quality, and investing in that, it seems like, is actually part of that marketing.
Yeah, so this is one of the mistakes in my mind that a lot of digital brands are doing. that maybe they spend 50,000 a month on online marketing. That's around what we spend now. And then when it becomes time to spend 5,000 euros on some photography, they spend a full-time photographer and video guy in the team doing all this. And that's so much better than using freelancers because he's a part of the actual team.
Yeah, and that can really also change the fact that he then understands the brand so much more. If you're just hiring like a one-off photographer, they might not be aware of, your different values or different products you have in the past, like the angles you like, etc. Versus someone's on your team, they're more bought in a bit.
Exactly, and he also has a commitment to the brand, and he really loves it. I mean, we're sitting in Bali together, and every evening we're talking about what would be cool to shoot. So it's you cannot get that if you use freelancers. And also the core when you scale is of course how well you do your online marketing. And if you keep running ads with the same old pieces of content, it's sort of a waste of potential and a waste of time. You need to have a lot of different versions of your videos and a lot of new content that you mix together in new ways so that you make sure that it converts the best way.
I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. As you've been kind of going through this career of being an entrepreneur, you went from having an office job to then starting your own company, selling that, and now doing this company. How is this company different from your previous one?
It's a completely different mindset and vision behind it. Because the first one, I would call myself an aggressive young man. I just wanted to raise a lot of venture capital and grow really, really fast and take over the world. So after the first 2.5 years, we already had 50 people and were burning a lot of money. And this time I wanted to be more sustainable and more in control. We wanted to do it without outside capital. We wanted to be break even or profitable, and we wanted to make a product that we really personally loved and felt a lot for.
Why is that?
I think also I'm getting older, so I wanted to create a startup that gave me the opportunity to have the perfect life, where I'm in the office every day with my fiance and my dog. I'm only hiring people that I really like because we hire slower, and we can do stuff like going to Bali for a month and work.
I think when you also have a VC-backed company, like while it looks awesome from the outside, and I do think it's incredible, at the same time you have more pressure because you're kind of on the runway. Like you got to do an IPO or you got to sell it. You got to get an ROI for your investors. Like there's a little bit more pressure there, it seems.
Yeah. And so to be in the name of full transparency and so on, we also did take some money in now, but we took it in later. So we took in €1 million, but it's not from a venture capital fund. It's a fund basically like an angel syndicate or that are acting more responsibly. So when we tell them we want to be break even and we want sustainable growth, they are okay with that. That means for us that it's a different kind of deal. It's a lower valuation and stuff like that, but we are okay with that because we create a different type of business.
It's more on your own terms as well. If you already have demand and you already have people who are wanting to buy your product, you're going to get a deal on your own terms more so, I feel. And also I think it's kind of scary, honestly, if you're burning through lots and lots of cash and you're not profitable. Like it's kind of a scary situation to be in where you're on that runway.
Yeah, I think for some people will have ice in their stomachs and they will sleep well at night, no matter how the burn rate and your run rate looks like. But for me, it was this constant pressure where you never know if you're going to get your next round of funding, and if you don't get it, your company is dead. Now we are more in control ourselves, and then I'll become a more relaxed founder.
hmm When it also comes to your partners, like, I love if you could talk a little bit about that because, we're focusing now a lot on you in this interview. How has your team or like your partner kind of contributed to this success?
Yeah, she's obviously 50% of the founder duo, and we know each other from my first company, where she was our Dutch styling team lead. So we were already working together before we were, what can you say, romantic partners. And because we were spending a lot of time together in Berlin, it just made sense for us to also do this together.
hmm
And
So,
she's more fashionable of the two of us, and she's the one who are very good at hiring people and organizing. And then I focus on product development and the vision part.
yeah, that's really interesting because when you're trying to get started, I think from the beginning, you try to do everything yourself. And I think there's a lot to be said for having someone who's complementary, who fills in some of those skills that you just aren't good at. You can only be so smart at what you can do, and
So
you
it's
need
not
someone there to help.
starting a company alone and being very excited or very scared in periods and trying to talk about it, talk to your partner about it, for example, is not the easiest always because they cannot relate to it that much. Um, that's one thing. And the other thing is when you choose a co-founder, a lot of times for brands like what we're doing, where you're creating a physical product, if you have one technical or what can you say product co-founder and one commercial co-founder, I don't think it always works out well because in big periods of time, it's not a full-time job to do product development in this type of business. So then you get this mismatch of workload.
One of the things that you learned, it seems like, from this recent project is regarding your technology, needing to do something a bit more innovative. I didn't really fully understand what you meant by that. Could you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, what I mean is that we now launched 3 different products where we use the same technology in new ways. First, it's shirts, then it's t-shirts, and then it's polo shirts. And that's not something I would always recommend to do. It's more if we make pants with a certain kind of new moisture wicking or something like that, then we can launch that. But yeah, for now, if we do smaller product launches, we will just do it via our website.
Okay. So basically, you're discovering that if you were going to do another big launch like this, you're going to want to have something totally unique and something really leveling up from what you're doing right now.
Yeah, the next one has to be on our, what can you say? It has to be a bigger moonshot, so to speak.
I'm taking a look at your website here. So it seems like you've really niched down on like men's fashion and these different things. One of the successful crowdfunders that I had on my podcast was for the Kosan travel dress. And I was just kind of curious, like, have you ever thought about getting into female fashion at all?
We have, but we would be a bad fit for that because my whole entrepreneurial e-com career has been focused entirely on men. So I'm specialized in men. And when it comes to e-com, I also don't fully get women. They need so
They're
many
hard to get.
yeah, like they need a lot of different styling options. They return a lot more, and they're less loyal. And for us, the first 1.5 years, we had white and blue shirts. It's very hard to reactivate your female clientele, I think, if you just have the same product in 2 colors for that long.
Yeah, guys are a bit more simple. we
You
don't we
know,
don't need too many choices there.
sometimes I wear the same white T-shirt 7 days in a row, and no one says anything. It's fine. But if my fiance is wearing the same dress for 7 days in a row, people will notice.
Yeah, definitely is. There's that difference there.
Yeah.
One of the questions I want to ask you was, so you've had a bit of a different company here, and you've had a lot of success so far. It looks like you're growing a lot. You just raised your own round of funding. What's like the thing that drives you most now? Because you sort of had that experience of like wanting to take over the world. Now you're kind of doing something different. What is most rewarding to you, or what do you enjoy most about this business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's less about growth this time, even though I've become very proud when I see our numbers. But it's more about creating a product that I feel is the best shirt in the world or the best pants in the world or something like that. and we're not there yet. But I can also start seeing that the technology gets more attention. So if I see more brands using similar technology to make shirts and polos, that actually also makes me happy, because then we start something, then we change something in the industry as a whole that might even have an impact on a bigger level.
It's also, I mean, it's eco-friendly. It's made in the EU. It obviously has that, stain repellent kind of functionality there. But I also think it's really cool that you're able to, bring a whole new line of apparel to market, when I think that's kind of difficult to do nowadays. So
it's the part that annoyed us so much in the beginning, also because we were part of the problem, is that traditional retailers and e-tailers will push really, really hard for you to buy new stuff all the time. That's basically the definition of fashion, to make you want new stuff. And I hate that, because there's way too much clothing produced every year, and we want less clothing to be produced, and we want you to keep your clothes for more years and wear it for more days. And if we can be a part of that change, then then I will be very proud.
And you also have this this odor repellent nature to your shirt. So even if you are wearing it for 7 days, the same shirt, people won't notice as much.
Yeah, well, it's obviously different from man to man, but for me personally, I can wear these shirts for a lot of days, easily a whole week, even if I'm sweating in the sun and biking to work. And to be honest, it's not the hardest technology to apply to cotton. So I think it's completely ridiculous that almost all everyday clothing in the world are without anti-odor technology. I think it's a waste.
Yeah, very well said. I think you also, like, just looking through some of your comments, like people asking you, can you make tuxedo shirts? Can you apply this to other new things? I think this is something that a lot of guys experience, and they're kind of looking for what it is that you're making. Like, they don't want to keep buying new shirts, every single month or whatever. So if it looks like you have 7 days to go with this campaign. Where can people go to learn a little bit more about your project?
You mean besides on our Kickstarter page?
Yes.
Well, if you follow us on Instagram, we are posting a lot of stories from everything we are doing. The next couple of days, we will show a lot of stuff from Bali, where we are playing around with the products.
Okay, great. For those who are listening, it's LABFRESH, LABFRESH. You can put that into Kickstarter to come up with the project, and also your website there. It looks like it's labfresh.edu, right?
Yeah, labfresh.co for the American version.
Okay, great. Well, this is a lot of really good practical advice and tips. Like, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I'd love it if we could maybe end here with, for someone else out there who it is their first company, it is their first time they're doing a project, and they're kind of uncertain, they're not really sure, and they would love a final tip or a word of encouragement, or even just something that you wish you knew as an entrepreneur getting started. Maybe you could pass that on to them.
Yeah, that's always a very good question. I would say, don't quit your day job. First, you start testing and researching and launching and building your MVP. And when you have some sort of proof of concept, then you can quit your job. Because, in the early phase, it's just not a full-time job. There's just a lot of waiting.
Mm-hmm. A lot of waiting in terms of figuring out the right product and learning about your marketplace, and also creating that minimum viable product. It's kind of like a whole slow uptick there, it seems.
Yes, you have to wait on prototyping and so on if you're building a physical product like we are. So I'm saying this because I get approached so often from people who quit their job because now they want to do a company and they're not sure what it's going to be yet. And then they just sit there and they get idle hands, and they see their savings becoming smaller. And then they suddenly launch a product that they're not that passionate about because, it's been 3 months, I have to do it now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it definitely goes the other way at a certain point, where the work can become quite great when you actually do launch. But definitely in the beginning phases. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all these great tips and information. We'll be sure to link up your campaign in the show notes. I appreciate your time. And also, we'll be looking to see if you come out with any really great, innovative products in the future. We would love to have you back.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Let me tell you about our latest sponsor, SendPro Online by Pitney Bowes. Shipping can be complex. Things can get really confusing really fast. With SendPro Online, it's easy to save time and money no matter what you send, from letters and packages to overnights and flats. You can easily compare USPS, UPS, and FedEx in an all-in-one online tool. You can print shipping labels and stamps directly from your printer. You can even track all of your shipments and get email notifications when they've arrived. SendPro Online is only $14.99 a month, and listeners can get a free 30-day trial when you visit pb.com/crowdcrux. That's pb.com/crowdcrux. Experience the convenience of SendPro Online for yourself when you sign up for a free 30-day trial. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Of course, I would appreciate it, and I would love it if you could take a second to leave a review on iTunes. But I did mention that at the beginning of the show, if you're interested in booking a one-on-one coaching call with me, that I would share a link for you to do that. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. crowdcrux.com/coaching. Just go to that link, give me a little bit of information about your campaign, and we can get started squaring away, number one, a launch strategy that's going to be effective for your specific niche or industry or product type. Number two, given the amount of money you're trying to raise, I can also tailor that strategy a little bit and what you're going to have to do if you want to be successful. I've seen many different campaigns over the years, and I've worked with many different entrepreneurs over the years. So I can really draw from that base of wisdom and knowledge in guiding you with this entire process. And I know that there are a lot of question marks, like whether that's question marks related to who should you hire, what resources out there should you be using, what are you missing, what are you not doing well. A very minor investment, I'm talking very minor investment, can help. Really, I think when it comes to the future of your project, you kind of have to put that into context. You're investing in yourself, and you're also investing in your campaign when you're surrounding yourself with the right people, and you're surrounding yourself with the resources and the education, the people who can help you succeed in a better way than if you had tried to figure it all out yourself and maybe fail, or maybe just not end up doing everything they could do. You could have, not raising a couple extra $1,000. You got to think about that as a business owner, is seeing things as an investment. And I've certainly spent a lot of my time trying to make it so that I can be 100% super helpful for you, as well as communicate it in a way that I think is going to resonate with you no matter where you are in the world, and no matter what type of product you have. I can bring my A game. I can help provide some really good critiques and feedback on your specific crowdfunding campaign. So finally, that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. I have one other thing to say about launching a campaign, and specifically, I think this is how this fits into your life. All too often, we think about doing something like, launching a project or starting a new business as that's like being a one-time event. But in my own life, when I've gotten it right, and a lot of times I don't get it right, I'll be completely honest. A lot of the times, I think entrepreneurs in general, we fail a lot. We don't always get it right. We are not, stockbrokers where like Warren Buffett is right like so many times and he's getting like a great ROI every single year. For us, we might end up, trying out 3 different things and only one of them works. Or we might have tried 5 different things and only one of them works. But the cool thing about entrepreneurship is it doesn't matter how many times you fail or how many times you don't get it right. As long as you get it right one time and you capitalize on that success, it can be a major career-shifting, life-changing event for you and for your family and for the people that are connected to you. A great example of this is today's guest. This individual launching their first project and then being able to grow that company, that first project also paving the way for future campaigns, and that knowledge base, which they grew about their customers and also about crowdfunding itself, that has paid off future dividends. You see what I'm saying here? This is all about investment in yourself and in the future. And if you do it right, and if you get a success, that can really, it's like a domino effect. That domino can knock over a lot more dominoes in the future. And it pays dividends far into the future, which is so special. And I think having that perspective and keeping that in mind can really help when maybe you don't want to go to work that day, or you just had such a hard day at work, man. And it's like, I don't want to also now have to go and work on my business from hours 6 to 2 in the morning. Like, that doesn't sound fun. At the same time, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Just listen to some of the other guests. They'll tell you 100% of the time that it is entirely worth it and that they would do it all again if they could, because you also feel the most alive, like just seeing a project go up and seeing it continue to raise funds and getting all that feedback and those comments and those followers. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. And it's something that I also love about my work, being able to work with some people that just have campaigns take off like that. It's really neat. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Go and check out some of the other ones in there. Leave me a rating and review on iTunes if you did like this episode, and I will see you next time.